Now when winter finally arrived to my vegetable garden here in south of Sweden, it is actually time to think forward to all the lovely greens that we would like to eat further on in spring. And I am going to show you today how you can easily grow your own microgreens, micro-leaf, baby spinach, whatever you may call it, at home in a simple way in your own garden. And what we want to create today from this is a green carpet of leaves that we will grow in my greenhouse. It is a perfect place to grow the early vegetables in spring that we long for now in winter, and not only to grow the plants you want to plant in your garden in summer, but also to grow the vegetables you want to harvest and eat early in spring. So that's what we're going to do. I think most of you actually have what you need for sowing like this at home already. You don't have to buy anything. I am using a quite large tray, a plastic tray with drainage holes in the bottom, of course. But you can also use boxes like this. It's a candy box from the local store. And if you use this kind of thing, you will have to make holes in the bottom so that water can disappear out if it gets too damp in there. And then we have the seeds, and I use seeds that are a bit too old. Maybe I don't know if they will germinate in a perfect way. So I have here spinach, I have the rocket, I have different varieties of lettuce, and I also have a kale. It's something like a green or a black kale. So what I am going to do is simply to mix them together and then make the sowings. And that way I get a mixture of different kind of leaves to harvest, not only lettuce or spinach or whatever. First thing to do is to mix the seeds, and most often I use this mug, but it's already wet from the snow, so I think I will try to mix the seeds just in a seed package here. Let's start with the rocket. So now I have my own little bomb of seeds in here, a mixture of my favorite leaves. And what I'm going to do now is an amazing way to grow the tiny vegetables in your garden, in trays or out in the open in the garden. And I use a method called broadcast sowing, and it's perfect, especially if you want to grow the tiny leaves. And what you do is you have a lot of seeds and you simply sprinkle them over the compost, the surface that you have prepared. It's flat, as you may see. And you can remember that the tiny leaves you are going to harvest, they don't require a big space. If you want to grow big plants, you have to leave space in between the plants. But if you are going to grow the tiny leaves, you can sprinkle them very close to each other, and the result will still be very good. So that's what I'm going to do now. As you can see, the seeds are very close together, and it's okay for this kind of sowing. I would never have done it like this if I would, grow the plants and transplant them in my garden later on. What is important to think of also is that the leafy greens we grow at home, they will need quite a lot fertilization. They need a healthy and rich soil, and that's why I use the compost from the garden. And you can also use the potting mix from a garden store, etc. But you will have to definitely fertilize the soil once or twice when they start to grow later on, so don't forget that. Now I will cover the seeds with some compost as well, using the compost, the same kind of compost I use for the sowing. This may not look fantastic, amazing, and oh wow, she's growing a lot of food, that girl. But it is actually a very good way to grow plenty of food in a season of the year where you normally don't harvest that many things in your own garden. Because this is not only one harvest, this is actually 3 harvests. And what you do is you wait for the leaves to grow, let's say 10 centimeters high or whatever. You cut it down, eat it, and then you wait for another harvest. And then you harvest that one and you wait for it to grow up a 3rd time. So I think maybe 2 or 3 times I can harvest from a tray like this. And then you can say, wow, it's plenty of food. And what I'm going to do now is simply to wait for some snow to fall on the surface, and then I will carry it into my greenhouse and wait. The plan now for this little tray is to wait here in my little new greenhouse in the front of the garden. And this place is very sunny, so as soon as the sun starts to shine, it will heat up the surface, the ground, and things will start to germinate. And I think it will start to germinate in February, and in April, a normal spring, I can start to harvest the small green leaves. And earlier spring we have had really nice harvests from spinach and lettuce and rucola and whatever green leaves I sow in winter time in a greenhouse. So I have only good hope for this tray as well. And now I wish you the best of luck with your sowings, and may you have a lot of green things to harvest later on in spring. And we will get back to this tray later on to check how it's doing in spring. Thank you for watching.